All right, let's get this show on the road. I'm too excited. Get in the screen. All right, well, thank you everybody for joining us this morning. I am super excited. Thank you, Betsy, for being here. For those of you who don't know who Betsy is, Betsy Koepke is an educational psychologist and a trained life coach. She has taken the frustration points of her own life's journey, worked through them, and has been sharing the love and lessons with others since 2015.
Today, she speaks, trains, and coaches all over the country about how to cultivate and sustain mental and emotional vitality and fulfillment, even in the face of extreme pressures and challenges. So thank you all for being here. And Betsy and her friend are here.
All right. Hello, everybody. It is wonderful to be here with you all this morning. And yes, what you are looking at is real. This is a real snake around my neck. Her name is Hermie. Ooh, she's being a little stubborn. She's my son Owen's pet snake, and she's going to teach us about the power of transformational change and how to shift from a crisis mindset, like many folks are experiencing right now, to an opportunity mindset. 7 years ago, I had a phobia of snakes. I grew up sharing a bedroom with my sister, and she had a phobia of snakes. So I would often wake up in the night with her screaming and freaking out that there's a snake at the bottom of my bed, or there's a snake that's gonna bite me. And I was a sensitive child, so my nervous system developed a phobia of snakes too. This is why she's great to help me illustrate how we really can rewire our nervous systems. All right, I recognize that there's a whole lot of kind of macro level society swirl and uncertainty right now. And I want to acknowledge that, and this is where the tech is going to get interesting. Let me share my screen. Okay. Can you all see my slides yet?
It looks like they're up there.
All right. So those of you who are coming in, you're right on time. So what I understand from the realtor lifestyle is that, if my slides will cooperate and move. There we go. That even on normal days or periods of time, your lifestyle can feel a bit like this. Help me with the tech here, girl. All right, am I right about that being a bit what your lifestyle is already like on a normal day? I have so much admiration for all of the things that you juggle and the people that you interface with and the timelines that you're under. So what I want to share with you today is thinking about the opportunity to, when you're in your slower season in your industry, to really take this fall and this winter to focus on your personal restoration and growth so that you can come out even better and stronger when you hit realty season again next spring. And what I love to teach folks about is how to create a fulfillionaire lifestyle. So what is a fulfillionaire? A fulfillionaire is a person who lives with purpose and has a vision. They pursue excellence while having fun along the way. I always say, if we're not having fun, then what the heck are we doing? A fulfillionaire has a clear sense of purpose and values. They care for their own mind, body, and spirit. They care for those around them, the larger community and world. They're compassionate, they're creative, they bring solution-focused responses to life's challenges. They're confident and resilient. A fulfillionaire appreciates meaningful experiences and connections, and they live from a solid foundation of financial security and freedom. So before I share a bit more about my transformational story, how I went from fried, as you can see there, to a fulfillionaire, I actually want to challenge you a bit. Why are you here today? Why did you sign up for this webinar? Why might it be important for you to really get a grip and create a fulfillionaire lifestyle for yourself right now? I want you to really know that, because we're going to go through an experience where we all need to dig deep this fall and winter. We all need to ask ourselves important questions and be ready to do the mental and emotional work it takes to come out on the other side. There are a whole lot of people who are really struggling right now. They're in some dark places and having a hard time finding any light at the end of the tunnel. Perhaps you're here because that person is you. That's fine. Maybe somebody who needs you is in that state. Maybe it's your kids or your spouse or your employees. I don't know your exact situation, but I know that for most of us here today, somebody needs us to be at the top of our game, no matter what's going on with all these challenges. So maybe there's a stack of bills on your table, and that's why you're here today. I can relate to that one. But there's a reason that you're here, and I could teach you a million topics, but if you don't determine your why, then all of this is just chatting and having a good time, and I love that, but I also want more from you, for you, than just that. I can tell you why it was necessary for me to figure this stuff out. So 7 years ago, I was living in chronic pain. I was working as an educational psychologist. I had 2 kids under the age of 5. My husband Tyler and I were like ships passing in the night, and I was the household CEO trying to balance it all and feeling like I was doing none of it well. I'm going to put Hermie down and show you what I was carrying around at that time. I carried this thing everywhere with me. It's called the Back Knobber 2. And I was using it to rub the knots, like rock hard knots that had formed in my upper back and my neck from living half of my life in chronic pain. So what I'm painting a picture for you here is 7 years ago, I was burning out on my own lifestyle. My body was burning out, my marriage was burning out. My mental and emotional health went from anxiety to depression and back again. And sadly, I was in a state of what many of us now consider normal. No, not cool, not okay. And then from that state, we had tragedy that struck in our family. It was a financial crisis, and I'm not going to get into all the hairy details here, but it was one of those situations where all the old skeletons come out of the family closet. Emotions were flying. It was messy. It was scary. It was not pretty. There was a lot of disruption. There was a lot of uncertainty. It was not dissimilar to what we're experiencing now on a global level and here in our local communities. But here's the funny thing with crisis, and maybe some of you are getting glimpses of this right now. Sometimes when we think everything is falling apart, it's actually falling into place, which is what I think is happening right now. So what I learned going through my own transformational process, studying transformational change, getting trained in coaching and working with individuals and organizations around the change process is that there really is a structure and a framework that is predictable. And sometimes that can just help calm our nervous systems to know like, oh, there is a structure to this, even though it feels so chaotic. So the structure goes like this. We have our old status quo. Quite frankly, it tends to involve a lot of like, oh, I'm fine, we're fine, I'm good. Yeah, right? But then we have this foreign element that comes into play. So right now it's COVID-19, it's racial riots, it's our election. People, in particular with COVID-19, there's like this, I don't want this to be happening. Like there's resistance to the fact that this is even happening. But as people realize like, oh, okay, this thing seems to not be going away, then you kind of get over this denial phase and you start to slip into like chaos. Like, what does this mean? I mean, we can see our systems going into chaos. Then as that goes on, people start to get desperate. They're wanting to cling to the old ways. They're wanting things to go back to normal. We don't know what normal looks like. We don't know what to expect. And yet we seem to not be able to go back to the old stuff. So we're just kind of hitting bottom at the state of desperation. That's where you see, the suicide rates are going up right now. The divorce rates are going up. This is what I mean by people are really struggling. Now, some people are going to stay there, get stuck there. They're, just really going to have a hard time moving on. Others of us are going to recognize that, this is kind of like being at rock bottom and being able to see some light, like, maybe there's a way to start doing things differently. Some of us are going to grow during this time. We're going to take this opportunity to recognize that maybe if we adapt, maybe if we evolve, maybe if we try things we haven't done before, maybe if we actually now take the time and energy to do some of the internal work that we probably should have been doing before, but we were putting off, and now we just can't afford to, we're going to start to create a new status quo. So we're going to take those transforming ideas, we're going to start to integrate them, and then over time, we're going to have a new normal where we come out stronger and better. Now, I'm guessing all of that, sounds fine and dandy once we get to that new normal, but how do we keep our sanity as we're navigating this lower part of the process? And quite frankly, those of us around us are navigating that part of the process because it feels messy, it feels uncertain, it feels challenging. So I'm going to give you 3 thoughts to thrive to, really focus on for this fall and this winter. The first is stand guard at the door of your mind. Now, how many of you can relate to feeling like this? Sometimes, moment to moment, sometimes all day long. Sometimes this is just your constant state when you look out at the world like, oh my God, what's going on? I certainly can. Standing guard at the door of your mind means that you recognize, you have crystal clear awareness of when your mental and emotional state is starting to go off the rails. It means observing your own mental patterns and recognizing when it's time to get off Facebook, when it's time to turn off the news, when it's time to stop engaging in that drama-filled conversation with that person who's bringing you down or who's raising your blood pressure because it's just not serving you. Now is the time for our mental and emotional health to be at its strongest. And I gotta tell you, there are a whole lot of people that have not been going to the mental and emotional gym and doing their conditioning, and now they're feeling out of shape. So stand guard at the door of your mind is number 1. Number 2, where focus goes, energy flows. Perhaps you've heard this thought to thrive before. If you haven't, let me give you a concrete example for how to kind of integrate this and think about this. So if you are the driver of this car and you're starting to skid out, where should your attention be? Should it be on that pole there, or should it be on the open road? Why? Why the open road? Because where focus goes, energy flows. Where you're looking is where that car is going to go, right? It's just like that in life too. As the leader of your family, of your work life, of your deals, where your focus goes, that's where the momentum of the thoughts, the feelings, the behaviors of that deal, of the people involved, of you are going to go. Right now, we feel like we're in a bit of a societal skid. So it's more important than ever that we focus on the open road of solution, possibility, possibility, possibility. And what's funny is that when you look at that whole picture, look at how little, like tiny space that pole takes up versus the whole big picture. And yet most people cannot take their eyes off the pole when they're starting to skid because they're so accustomed to focusing on problems rather than solutions. So here's where Hermie's going to come back into play. I'm going to pull her up here. Oh, she's peeking out. I'm pulling her up here again because she is wonderful at helping illustrate why we get so stuck and fixated on the pole or our problems. So you see, Hermie and you and I, we all share a similar feature, and that is we all share this lower brain. It's primal. It's actually called the croc brain, the reptile brain, the alligator brain. I've heard it all differently because it's a shared feature that we have with the reptile kingdom. So the function of this part of our brain, our lower brain, is to keep us alive. It's literally to scan the environment like Hermie's probably doing right now, asking what the heck's going on, and be on alert for threats. This part of our brain loves rigidity. She loves everything to be the same, same, same. Hermie is a ball python. She likes to be curled up in a ball under a rock. She likes, this is probably stressing her out about because she just likes her environment to be the same. Because as we're scanning the environment, if something's different, our lower brain is like, oh, it might be out to get us. It could be a threat, okay? But what's different between the brains of Hermie and you and I is that we have developed a midbrain and we have developed a prefrontal cortex. So we've gone way beyond her brain development. But when our nervous system is stuck in that lower brain mentality, we'll, because we're in anxiety, because we're in overwhelm, because we're like in that survival state, like so many people are right now, we're gonna stay in unhealthy relationships, we'll stay in toxic work environments, we'll keep doing unhealthy behaviors because at least they're the same. Even if they're slowly killing us, at least they're the same. Now, activating our higher brains is what is going to allow us to move beyond post-traumatic stress and into this phenomenon that is actively being studied and is a real thing, post-traumatic growth. So when we focus on post-traumatic growth, we actually elevate our well-being beyond our old status quo. And this is where I want you folks to be focused, is on this concept of, whoa, this is actually an opportunity right now for us to understand how to grow and elevate beyond probably most of the population right now. So let's give an example. A person who's stuck in a lower brain thought right now is going to be repeating a mantra to themselves like over and over, like this pandemic is the end of the world and we're never going to recover. Versus someone who's activating their higher brain will ask their brain a question like, how do I become stronger, better, and more willing to make the changes that I probably should have been making for a long time, but I'm kind of forced to do now? All right, so we activate our higher brains by asking ourselves better questions, which is why Thought to Thrive number 3 is a question. And the question is, how do I become self-full? How do I go from somebody who is burned out and running on fumes on a daily basis to somebody who is energized, filled up with meaning and purpose, and ready to take on whatever life has to offer? The way that I went from being fried to fulfillionaire was I learned a new skill. It was called putting myself on the top of my to-do list and not feeling guilty about it. So right now, if you do not have something to write with and something to write on, I want you to grab that. I'm going to put Hermie away, and I'm going to walk you through one of my most popular coaching exercises because it gets people results to, the practical and the tactical results and the mindset to start moving step by step towards more of a fulfillionaire lifestyle. So grab what you need to write with and write on. Hermie's going back to ball up. Yes, girl. No, you're out. No. She is activated. Okay. So if you haven't already, you can start drawing this visual. So this is gonna be your time target to thrive. You can title it as that. And you're gonna want these 3 concentric circles. And in the outer circle, you wanna write the words dimension of distraction. And then in the middle circle, dimension of demand. You can make this like as big as the whole piece of paper. And then in the middle, you're gonna have your zone of fulfillment. Okay, and don't worry, we're gonna keep going over this. So if you don't have it all this minute, you'll be able to add to this. And this is purposeful. I want you actually writing this yourself rather than me just giving you a handout, because we can sit here and talk about, you can listen, we can talk about this, but if you're actually writing, it's actually going to, integrate into the learning will integrate into your nervous system in a deeper way. So I'd like to do this together if folks are able to type into the chat. We'll see how this works. And I would like folks to list in the chat, what are some things you do that you would put in your dimension of distraction? So these are things that allow you the feeling of getting away from it all. They allow you to have that just escaping from life feeling. So for example, I'll give one example and then folks can share. Watching TV, right? Who can relate to watching TV? What are some other things that folks can put in the chat? And actually, I can't see the chat.
It should be at the bottom there, right next to sharing
Oh,
screen.
there we go. Wait. Huh. Can somebody read to me? Is there anything in the chat?
Looks like someone said Netflix, someone said music, someone said social media.
Awesome, yes. So put in whatever of those apply to you. I'll put in some of the
Video games, I second that one.
yep, there you go. I'll put in some of the things people have put in the past. Having a cocktail. All right, so you can brainstorm other things that you would consider in your dimension of distraction, just going passive, just getting away from it all. All right, then we're gonna do our dimension of demand. So that's that second circle. And I want you to think of all the things in your life that currently feel demanding. So they kind of suck energy from you. They take energy from you. They are, tiring, or, you feel kind of exhausted when you're done, or you dread doing them. These are all the things that really create demand on your lifestyle. So, for example, cleaning. You can think about both personal and professional life. Paying bills, running errands, yard work, kids, parenting. You can think of certain aspects of parenting. Making lunches is one of mine that definitely feels like a demand. So keep going with demand. I'll give you a minute here. Think through aspects of your professional life. Checking email, responding to phone calls. What are the things you find most demanding about your job? It can be mentally demanding. If folks want to put other stuff in the chat too, you can. I just need Luke to.
Looks like we got homeschooling.
Oh, yes.
Meal prepping.
Mm-hmm.
What else we got?
Dishes, laundry.
Are you seeing the chat now?
I'm not.
Oh, someone literally just said laundry.
Oh, yep. That's usually like the first one.
Some friends. Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. People will put like family get-togethers, holidays. Some people say like their church activities, like they feel like a demand. Okay. You can also continue to add to this even when we're done with this exercise. It's just this is kind of an awareness piece. Okay, so then let's go into the zone of fulfillment. So what I want you to put in here, and this is going to be a bit more personalized, so you don't have to share in the chat unless you want to. But these are going to be things that as an individual, they fill you up. They fill up your cup. When you are engaged with these things, you are in your zone. So for me, it's coaching, it's teaching, it's like yoga, going for a walk in nature, So identify what those things are for you. Maybe photography, and put them in your zone of fulfillment circle.
Doesn't look like anyone's saying anything in chat right now.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you. Now, if I were to give you 2 weeks of uninterrupted time where you could do anything you want with anybody you want, you had as much money as you wanted, what would you do? Who would you do with it with, and where would you go? That's another kind of higher brain question to have you brainstorm just a little bit more. All right. Now we're going to put some numbers to this. So you don't have to write all of this out. You can just write your numbers in your circles. So what I want you to do is estimate out of 100% of your waking hours, so don't include when you're sleeping, and do this like in an average week. I know we're in such a strange time right now, but just try to think about an average week. I want you to estimate how much time you spend in each of these areas. And when you're done, you should have 3 numbers that add up to 100%. So I'm in distraction 10% of the time, I'm in demand 70% of the time, and I'm in the zone 30% of the time, something like that. You don't have to get super detailed, just an estimate. If anybody needs more time to do your estimate, will you indicate that in the chat? And Luke, will you read it to me?
Doesn't look like anyone's typing anything right now.
Okay, everybody must be good. Okay, so now I'm going to share with you the numbers according to research and lifestyle experts that we should be spending in each of these. Okay, so dimension of distraction. We all need some time to feel like we're getting away from it all, just like we're escaping those demands of life, just chillaxing, restoring. Even if it means, you know, just watching TV, playing video games, whatever it is, we need restorative time. Our target lifestyle for dimension of demand should be 40%, which I realize for most people, they're just like, yeah, right. Like that doesn't even seem possible. And I'm not, you know, it's tough in this American westernized lifestyle we've created for ourselves. I totally get that. In order to really feel consistently, sustainably energized and fulfilled, we should be investing or spending 50% of our time in our zone. And I love to talk about time because, and use words like spending and investing, just like we do about money, because time is maybe perhaps even more valuable resource when you think about it. It's like our time is our life. We all have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if we can figure out how to master this resource of time, I've actually found that I can convert that into money. So it's a fun topic to talk about because so many people are struggling with how to master this resource of time. And this exercise at least brings some awareness into it. Like, here's where you are now, right? Here's where you want to be target-wise. Now, how do we make a game plan to get there? So if you are feeling like, oh my gosh, my numbers are way off, it's pretty typical. I think I've only worked with 1 or 2 people who were like, oh yeah, I'm in my zone 50% of the time. I remember that one of them was a yoga studio owner. So she was like just doing what was in her zone as her livelihood. If your dimension of distraction is up like 40% or higher, so you're just spending a lot of time kind of loafing and chillaxing, you're gonna start to have your self-esteem erode. It's almost like that spiritual aspect of you knows that you should be doing more, you could be doing more, you're not fulfilling your life's purpose. So that's where depression and apathy can start to set in. Even some anxiety of like, I feel restless, I know I should be doing something more important with my life, but I don't know what it is. I worked with a fellow who, when we did this, he had 70% of his time in the dimension of distraction. He's in his 30s, single guy. He was watching a whole lot of sports, eating a whole lot of, not healthy food while he's watching. He's gambling on the sports just to kind of distract himself. He's drinking alcohol while he's watching. And this was like a wake-up call. He was really overweight. I mean, you could see it physically, what his lifestyle was doing to him. And this was like a wake-up call, like, oh my gosh, I'm basically just escaping from my life while I'm here on the planet. Okay, so that's what can happen if you get out of balance there. Then what I see with most folks is they're really high in this dimension of demand, and they feel stuck in the hamster wheel and they don't know how to get out of it. And this is where this can really lead to burnout. So if you're like 70, 80, 90% here, which most of the folks I work with when I do this are, then we start to plan and get strategic about how can we start alleviating some of the stuff that's on your plate. And this is where my control freaks, my perfectionists, they do like the idea of letting go, of delegating is like, they're just like wanting to grip onto those old ways, right? So that's where we really have to do that kind of work of letting go. All right, so now we're going to start that here today. We're going to start making little baby step shifts so that you can exchange. I'm just going to assume that folks want to exchange a little bit of that demand time for getting more into their zone of fulfillment. We could do distraction. Sometimes distraction is easier because it's just like, oh, I'll watch less TV, I'll play less video games. But demand can be kind of harder to figure out. So how do we close the gap from where we are now to where we'd like to be? I used to want to just like go big, go hard, go fast, like quantum leap this thing. I'm gonna totally, change up my lifestyle. I found that if we can figure out how to integrate step by step, a bit more incrementally, one step at a time, number one, it feels easier. Like, how do we make this easy and how do we make this fun? Sometimes it's just too disruptive to go too big and too bold. And we tend to it's not sustainable and we'll slip back into old patterns. So I like to move people, move the needle one step at a time. So the first thing that I would like you to do is to identify one activity that's in your zone of fulfillment that seems doable to implement right now. So if you put down nature, maybe you want to commit to a 5-minute walk every day. Or if you put down yoga or working out, maybe you want to commit to an hour of that a week. And the other thing I want you to identify in your zone is what's something that's going to pack a powerful punch toward impacting your lifestyle and energy in a positive direction. So what is that like kingpin or queenpin behavior that's going to, give you 80% results? For me, it was yoga because I knew it would hit the mind, body, and spirit all in 1 hour. I committed to 1 hour of yoga a week. That's how I started moving some demand into fulfillment. So choose your zone of fulfillment activity. And then we're going to brainstorm time trade tactics. So this is part of this exercise, is part of an online course I created. I'll tell you about it a little bit later. But I'm just going to read a little bit from this handout, the time trade tactics that are in there. So this is where you have to activate your higher brain, and you have to get curious. Like some people are like, well, I'm just stuck. Like I have all of these demands. I don't know how to let go of any, there's nobody to delegate it to. Is that true? Is that really true? So I want you to think right now about the human resources in your life. If you could leverage somebody else doing some of those demands in your life, who could you leverage to do that? Is your spouse perhaps needing to pick up more of the weight around the house? Is there an employee at work who you could start delegating to more for some of those demands? Could you pay somebody to clean your house? Could you pay somebody to do your yard work? Start just making a list. You don't have to do anything about it yet, just brainstorm the resources in your life. Your kids, can they be a human resource? Do they need to start doing their own laundry? Is that going to be a win-win? That they need to have that growth experience so they're not at home doing laundry when they're 25 at your house? They're bringing it back for you to do. Do they need to do the dishes? That kind of thing. Does everybody need a little growth spurt, especially during this time of we're going to be home so much? And then the other piece is net time. So net time this is a Tony Robbins term, no extra time. So no extra time is like if you're commuting. How could you get into your zone on your commute or when you're putting your makeup on? I, started listening to inspiring podcasts or, my personal development material when I was commuting. And when I'm putting my makeup on, I'm often having a high quality conversation with a friend or a colleague via Voxer. It's my favorite communication app these days. And then the other one is sometimes we're really just stuck. Like sometimes stuff at work, like we just have to do it, or there's just meetings we have to attend. So how can we shift our mindset about some of those things that are super irritating and demanding and shift them into like a growth opportunity? How can we activate growth mindset? So how can I reframe the situation with this person, with this situation? How can I view the situation with this challenging person as an opportunity to practice patience? How can I use my frustration about our monthly staff meetings as a way to cultivate more courage and use my voice to share my ideas? Things like that in terms of mindset. And you can keep, brainstorming outside of this webinar, but I just want to give you a way to start thinking about, like, don't stay stuck in that lower brain fixed mindset where everything needs to be the same. Be willing to open up, to ask for help, to think more creatively about your resource pie. Do not underestimate your resourcefulness. You are way more resourceful than Hermie. We have a midbrain, we got a higher brain. We got a lot more we're working with to figure this stuff out. All right, and then you're going to declare it. Okay, so I want you to identify that zone of fulfillment behavior activity that you want to do more often. Put that, in order to invest my time in, for me it was yoga 1 time per week, I'm going to utilize the following time trade tactics to ensure that I get the results I'm looking for. And lucky my husband, he got to oversee parenting and dinner on Tuesday evening so I could carve out 1 night a week of doing yoga. And that's how I got started, because I was in 70-80% demand. Those images where I was burning out, I may have been more like a 90% demand once that crisis with my family hit. And so I knew that I had to shift, and this was the first shift that I made. Okay. And then right now, you need to go into your calendar and you need to schedule this, because we can sit here and talk about it. You can write this stuff down, but if you don't put it in your calendar, it's not happening. And, for me, yoga, I put it in there Tuesday evenings, it was recurring. Put it in there as recurring. So I give you permission to, pull your phone out, get distracted enough for a minute to focus and put this into your calendar and make it recurring so that you're going to see it visually pop up, and it's going to remind you like, oh yeah, I committed to making the shift for my lifestyle, because you're the only one that can do this. And your time is your life. People look back and that's what they think about, is how they invested their time. So if you need to, you know, be more intentional about spending time with your kids, your spouse, schedule that. Monday evenings, we're going to do date night for an hour. And you can figure out what that looks like. You don't have to have it all figured out right now. Just schedule it. This is your life. You got to take control. All right. And then as I just kept doing that. I kept asking my brain better questions, and it kept giving me, you know, clear answers of what I wanted for my lifestyle. So literally at one point I wrote these two questions and drew a line down a piece of paper, and they were, what do I want to let go of in my life that's no longer serving me? What do I desire as part of my world going forward? I had just gone through this like crisis with my family, and it was like a wake-up call of like, well, that's interesting. I'm at this midlife place. I'm seeing what has happened to them based on some of the decisions they've made. Is this what I want for myself going forward? It seems like an opportunity to get some clarity here. And this is what, because I asked my brain better questions, this is what my beautiful brain told me. I said no to living the hamster wheel lifestyle. I said no to generational alcoholism and addiction patterns. I said no to being a people pleaser and caring so much of what people thought about me. I said no to having too much stuff. I said no to eating toxic food. I said no to being addicted to the 24/7 news cycle. And guess what? That freed up so much freaking time and energy and emotional and mental space. It was unbelievable. And then it gave room for me to say yes to being in more harmony with myself, doing things that felt nourishing and fulfilling for me, spending more time just relaxing and, you know, doing self-care, eating foods that were actually nourishing and, you know, gave me a sense of like vibrancy about life. Playing more with my kids, being more present with my kids, letting them teach me how to play and enjoy life again. And probably the most powerful thing that I said yes to was living from a state of my personal power. And as I began to get results for myself, I had people asking, like, how is this happening for you? I started to have people, you know, ask me to write about different topics. Somebody asked to put my 10 reasons to adopt a more minimalistic lifestyle on TV. I got asked to do podcasts and modeling gigs. I mean, it took me just kind of getting focused and doing me, took me into places when I was in those fried pictures, I would have never imagined. And then, I'm gonna look at my time here. I started getting questions about how my clients were getting results. So Keith here, he is a fellow who structures high-end financial deals. I don't know what he's all going on there, but it's way over my head. But when he came to me, he was just unhappy in terms of lifestyle, in terms of his physicality, in terms of his relationship. And this guy was like, go, 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 do, achieve, like more intensely than anybody I'd ever seen. When I started to teach him like how to go slow to go fast and how to prioritize more of a balanced lifestyle, he literally began to transform before his eyes. Now, you know, this took time, but you can just see the results of how much more kind of life he has coming out of his eyes and his smile. And then we have Kylene. When I started working with her, she was a mom of two. They had just built a new house. She had just started her new aesthetics business from what she calls basement beginnings. And she knew when she started her business that she wanted to intentionally focus on the other areas of her life too. Like she just didn't want to start her business and put everything into that and let her marriage fall apart and, you know, not be a good mom. She was the poster child from, I want everything, I want it all right now, and I have high standards for it all. So as we worked together, we focused on those different parts of her life, not all at once. It's like balance isn't like focusing on everything at once. It's just having that aerial view of, you know, what's happening in each segment of your life and what right now needs a bit more energy. And people started to notice her results. And then Kylene brought me in to work with her staff as her business grew and developed and moved on to Main Street. So I finally got over my own tech fears and blocks, and I created an online course just to make it more accessible and easy for folks to access this content. So I can share a bit about that with you. I'll share it right now. And if you have more questions in the Q&A, we can go over that too. But the course is 9 modules. It's designed to improve that mental and emotional functioning, especially right now, you know, to just do that mental and emotional conditioning. Each area of your life is tackled one by one, those 8 M's. There's worksheets, there's visuals to support their learning. There's a guided meditation for each module. And then there's a keeping it real accountability tracker so that you can track your own progress. This is Katie. She's another one of my clients who, as I worked with her and she discovered her life purpose, it was to help people tidy their homes. And she's somebody who typically would not spend the time and money on herself. And then she emailed me one day and she said, Betsy, Marie Kondo is training the first 50 tidiers in the US. And that woman talked to her husband. She booked herself for the seminar. She booked a hotel. She booked the flight, and she's right there next to Marie Kondo. She's one of the, you know, first 50 certified tidiers in the US. So just some really cool results that people are able to get when they get clear and they get purposeful. Yes, there's her business now. So my favorite things to ask myself and my clients are, how do I make this easy? So if you are interested in, you know, making steps toward more of a fulfilling your lifestyle, the ways that I can make it easier for you are private coaching, the online course, and folks who, you know, want to sign up for either of these based on this webinar, I'll give you my my ebook on how the 10 reasons to adopt a more minimalistic lifestyle. You join the Fulfilling Your community, and then I am throwing in Couples Connection, which is the course my husband and I created. I'm throwing it in for folks right now who, you know, opt to work with me because we need this level of support as we're going into the fall and winter. Like, as we're spending so much time and space and all these emotional variables flying around, it's like if your partner or your spouse is already driving you nuts or triggering you, you need Couples Connection right now. So I'm throwing it in. And you know that, how do I make this fun? It's like, we do it together. And right now, more than ever, I feel like the message is we gotta figure out how to do this thing called life together. So thank you for listening. I'm happy to answer any questions in the few minutes we have left.
If anyone does have questions, they are able to unmute themselves and ask them, so you don't have to feel like you have to type them out.
Well, I don't have any questions right off the top, but that was great. Thank you, Betsy.
Mm-hmm. I thought that you had some really good tips, and I really appreciated the bullseye and filling all that information. It's kind of an eye-opening exercise.
Yes, yeah, it is for most people. Awareness is the first step for making changes. So one of the first changes I made was I walked around my neighborhood 5 minutes a day, 5 minutes every morning, and I said the mantra, I expand in love, success, and abundance each and every day, and I inspire those around me to do the same. And just even a 5-minute, you know, mental and emotional exercise like that is so powerful.
Yeah, it really is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good way to start your day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much. Does anybody have any last minute questions? Otherwise, we'll end the seminar. And I do believe will this be recorded and put up, Luke, for everyone to see later?
That is up to Betsy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yep, I'm so happy to connect with anybody. Yep, it's just what I love to do.
Awesome. Well, we got your social media tags, so I'll start following you too for some good inspiration and tips.
All right. Take care, everybody.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yep. Bye, everyone.